The diner on the corner of Maple Street was unusually quiet the morning it happened. The kind of quiet that feels heavy, almost expectant, as if the world is holding its breath. The low hum of conversations, the clinking of forks on plates, and the distant sound of a coffee machine were the only things breaking the silence. But at the far end of the room, near the window where the weak Montana sunlight spilled in, a moment was about to unfold. One that would change a man's life in ways he never saw coming. Nathan Reed had come there seeking nothing more than a cup of coffee and a moment to steady a heart that felt more fractured than whole. He was used to keeping his distance from people, used to the ache of loneliness he carried like a second skin. But that morning, as he stood to leave, believing it was better not to linger anywhere too long, a soft voice stopped him cold. A small girl with curly light brown hair, wearing a lavender ribbon around her dress, looked up at him with an innocence that pierced straight through every wall he had built. She said something so unexpected, so disarming, that his legs weakened beneath him. She told him he looked like her daddy should, and with those simple words, he sank back into his seat as though gravity itself had claimed him. If you believe in kindness, in fate, and in the power of second chances, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps these stories reach more hearts. Nathan sat still, stunned by the force of her words. The little girl's mother, a woman with tired eyes and a soft, apologetic smile, gently placed a hand on her daughter's shoulder as if trying to pull the child back from whatever line she feared had been crossed. Her name was Claire, and she looked like someone who had spent too long holding herself together for the sake of someone else. Her daughter, 5-year-old Harper, seemed unaware of any discomfort. She simply looked at Nathan as though he was someone familiar, someone her heart recognized even if her memory did not. Nathan swallowed hard, his mind torn between the instinct to retreat and the sudden, unexplainable pull to stay. Claire tried to apologize, explaining quickly that Harper didn't have a father in her life and sometimes said things without thinking, but her voice wavered. Nathan could see the raw truth behind her words, something deeper than embarrassment, something that tasted like loss. He didn't know why he stayed seated. He didn't know why his heart reacted as if it had known these strangers long before he walked in. Maybe it was because he himself had been raised without a father and understood the longing behind Harper's innocent declaration. Maybe it was because he saw something familiar in Claire's eyes, something he had seen in the mirror too many times after losing his own wife 3 years earlier in a highway accident outside Bozeman. Or maybe it was because loneliness recognizes loneliness, and sometimes souls drift toward one another without needing explanation. He sat there frozen in place until Harper leaned forward, lifting the small cardboard menu as though offering him a reason to stay. It was such a simple gesture, but it cracked open something inside him. Claire hesitated, but eventually allowed Nathan to remain at the table. Though she insisted he didn't need to feel obligated, Nathan quietly assured her that he didn't feel obligated at all. He didn't know what he felt, only that leaving suddenly felt impossible. The waitress came by, surprised to see Nathan still seated, and poured more coffee while Harper chattered softly about pancakes and whipped cream. Nathan listened, replying only when Harper asked him questions. Claire observed him carefully, her defenses slowly giving way to an expression of cautious trust. As the minutes passed, Nathan found himself drawn into a world he had almost forgotten, a world filled with gentle laughter, small stories, and the soft warmth of companionship. Harper showed him her favorite sparkly hair clip. She traced shapes on the table with her small fingers. She asked him if he liked dogs, if he liked the snow, if he ever felt scared of thunder. And with every question, Nathan felt something in his chest loosen. A knot of grief that had been wound so tight for years that he barely remembered life without it. He learned that Claire worked 2 jobs, one at a local clinic and another cleaning offices at night, to make ends meet. He learned that Harper loved the color lavender, loved drawing suns with little rays, loved collecting pretty rocks from the playground. And he learned that the man who had fathered Harper had left long before the little girl took her first breath. Claire didn't speak of him with bitterness, only acceptance, though Nathan could tell the pain underneath was still very much alive. Harper didn't know the details. She simply knew she had a mother who loved her fiercely and a space in her life that felt empty, shaped like a father she never met. Nathan felt the ache of that emptiness as though it echoed his own. After losing his wife, Anna, he had spent years hiding behind routine, behind work, behind silence. He had avoided places like this because they reminded him of what he once had and what he had lost too soon. But sitting here, watching Harper's face light up as she talked, he felt something unexpected. Something like a seed of hope pushing through years of hardened soil. He didn't plan on seeing them again. He didn't ask for their number, nor did he give his. When they finally stood to leave, Harper wrapped her small arms around his waist without hesitation, and Claire's voice softened with gratitude. Nathan stayed behind for several minutes after they walked out, staring at the empty seat beside him where Harper had been. He didn't understand why his heart felt heavier and lighter at the same time. He only knew that something had shifted. He spent the rest of the day thinking about them. The next morning, he found himself driving past the diner again. He told himself it was coincidence, that he simply needed breakfast somewhere familiar. But as he turned into the parking lot, his pulse quickened, and he understood the truth. He hoped they'd be there. And they were. Harper's eyes widened with delight the moment she saw him, and Claire's surprised smile warmed the room more than the sunlight ever could. That unexpected reunion turned into a pattern. Days became weeks. Nathan began sitting with them regularly, and Harper began saving a seat for him whenever they arrived first. Claire watched the growing bond with quiet caution, but eventually allowed herself to trust Nathan's presence. He never crossed boundaries. He never tried to fill a space that wasn't his. But somehow, without trying, he became part of their lives. A steady, gentle presence Harper adored, and Claire slowly came to rely on. Nathan found himself laughing again. He found himself talking again. He found himself living again. One snowy afternoon, months later, Harper tugged on Nathan's sleeve in the diner. She said she wanted to show him something. She reached into her little backpack and pulled out a drawing, her face beaming with pride. It was a picture of 3 people holding hands under a big yellow sun, a woman with blonde hair, a tiny girl with curls, and a man with dark hair and a soft smile. Underneath the picture was a single sentence written in wobbly 5-year-old handwriting. It said, "My family." Nathan's breath hitched as he stared at the drawing. Claire looked startled, then emotional, then terrified in a way only someone who has learned to survive life's hardest blows can be. She whispered that Harper didn't understand what she was saying, that she was just a child, that Nathan didn't have to feel pressure. But Nathan shook his head, unable to speak at first. He gently knelt next to Harper and said thank you in a voice so quiet it almost broke. That night, Nathan realized he had a choice: to walk away and protect himself, or to step forward and risk his heart again. He knew the cost of loving someone and losing them, but he also knew the cost of never loving again at all. Weeks later, Nathan invited Claire and Harper to a small Christmas festival in town. Harper rode the carousel, her laughter echoing through the cold air. Claire stood beside Nathan, closer than she had ever stood before. And in that moment, Nathan reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. It wasn't a grand declaration. It wasn't a promise sealed with perfect certainty. It was simply 2 people choosing to step toward one another instead of away. Months passed, and the 3 of them became inseparable. Nathan walked Harper to school. Claire invited him to family dinners. They built a life slowly, gently, one quiet day at a time. And Harper, bright, brave Harper, continued painting pictures of three people holding hands. Near the end of a warm summer afternoon, Nathan stood on Claire's porch, watching Harper chase fireflies in the yard. Claire stepped beside him, her expression soft. She told him she never expected life to give her someone like him. Someone patient, someone good, someone who cared for her daughter as though she were his own. Nathan felt his throat tighten. He told her she and Harper had given him something far greater, a reason to believe in life again. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. It truly helps more people find these emotional stories. A few months later, on a quiet Sunday evening, Harper climbed onto Nathan's lap, leaned her head on his chest, and told him she was glad he stayed that first day in the diner. She said she hoped he would stay forever because he was exactly what she always imagined a daddy should look like. Nathan's eyes filled with tears as he hugged her gently, knowing he had found something he never expected. A family born not from blood, but from love. Please take a moment to comment below before